Now, adding a second camera is quite simple. The first thing that I would like to do is extend our timeline. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to select 960, which effectively means that I've doubled the amount of time. We don't actually have to use all of that. We're just getting more real estate to work with. So when we position our cursor around here, we can now press the button to add a new camera. And you can see a new camera has been added, which is called camera 2. And we're also pretty much using that. We could also delete this, select this camera, and Control D to duplicate. But then the duplicated camera has the same keyframes as the other camera. But it's fine because you could always delete them and start fresh. Now, sorry, I've made a mistake. I've actually deleted the stuff from my first camera. This is the camera that we need to delete. This is the one that we duplicate. So I'm going to select everything and delete. Now we are possessing this camera, and this is the camera that we've normally animated so far. Yeah, and this is the second camera that we created. Now the second camera doesn't actually have anything in the camera cut, so we need to sort of eyeball this around here, press this plus button, and select the second camera to add. Oh, actually, make sure you don't add the same camera, which I did. So it would be actually more useful to just name them. So this is camera 2. All right, this is very odd. Apparently, camera 2 is the camera that's active up there. No fret, we can actually delete that. We have no camera cut now. And we can go to this frame, select camera cut, and we're selecting the first camera. See now it's filled this area, but we don't want that. We want to drag it to about 480. We want to then go to 480 and then press this plus button again and select camera 2. So now we have camera 2. So if I go and possess this, we have camera 1 being right now animated, as you can see. And then when it reaches the second point, which is going to be camera 2, it will possess that one. So you can see we've got quite a bit of real estate here to work with anyway, if we wanted to. And now it's reached camera 2, and we're above here again because that's the initial position where we took the camera to begin with. And now we can select that camera 2 and have a look at its transforms. We can actually press this button over here to add a new transform point. And now we can control it. So let me just actually possess it rather than see the camera cuts. Now we can control it and do whatever we want with it. So one of the key sort of features was that we could see it from here. We could probably bring this camera quite close like that, and maybe make it so that it's looking at looking at the skull, and that's the position. And then as we go sort of backwards, by the way, our lifetime cycles are ending, so we've got to increase that. So as we sort of look at it, we sort of go backwards. Maybe something like that. And we could do this very slowly as well. So you can see in here, when we switch to this camera, we're going to pull away from it slowly, slowly, slowly. Now, one thing that we could also do for this particular camera is just set it so that it's actually got a tracking. So we're going to put this to tracking, and we're going to have an option to select what we want to track. Just type in goblet. And now it's tracking the goblet and it's actually looking at that. Okay. We can also have like a debug tracking focus point just so you can see where that looks like. You can even do a plane. And as you play the sequence, you'll notice that the focus plane stays where it is. Okay. So now we're able to do that. What I would then work with is, is the lighting. So let me just go into sequence in here and possess the camera cuts. Is the lighting in sort of the format that we want it to be? Is this how it needs to look like or not? This is very important for us to try and determine as well if we've got the right lighting for the scene, depending on what we want. So yeah, let's have a look at that. So when we are looking at lighting, it's important that we start setting up the scene in such a way that it, emphasizes on what we want to see and how we want to build the atmosphere. Now, we obviously got a lot more light onto the right side than we have of the left side. I am going to select our one of the cameras. So I'm going to select camera 1. And I'm going to go on the timeline all the way here at the beginning, where we can see it from the top. And I'm also going to be pinning the preview. So what I'm noticing straight off the bat is that we have so much light onto the right side here. Where is that light really coming from? I mean, what's generating it, you know? So that could be something that you may want, or that could be something that you don't want, because if there's no, you know, where is, as I said, where is the light coming from? Now, one thing that you could do is attenuate the light direction from this one. But you could have a look at increasing or decreasing the attenuation. By decreasing it, it's a lot more focused, and by increasing it, it's less focused, but obviously covers a broader range. You could also increase the source width, and then you can also increase the height on it or decrease the height on it. And as long as you got a lower attenuation, you should get you're able to, you can see that you can almost like close the lid on the light, you know, even more if you want to. Maybe create something like that. Maybe that's something useful. But all in all, it's about, you know, doing what's best for the scene that you've got. So right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this light out completely so we actually can't see it at all. And I am going to select this light from here as well. And you notice that the entire scene has now changed because of this. I could bring this forward like that. It's not really going to help us, especially because it's lighting up that area. What I would like it to do is light up the front of the skull. So I am going to leave this sort of panel down here. Maybe even, you know, sort of do something like that. Maybe, you know, drag it some more down. Now it's looking at the skull. And it's sort of, you know, we're looking at what the intensity is. What's the color that should be thrown onto this skull? So for me, I'm going to go for that sort of pinkish haze that we had. And I'm going to make it a bit darker as well, just a bit of a tint. And we can have a look at if we want to increase the intensity of it or not. Maybe a 1.3 for now in here, just to see how that looks like. But now we have no light coming from the top when we are, you know, in our sequence. So if I switch over to the sequence right now, there isn't really any light. We're not really seeing anything. And if we play the sequence, you can see there's not much going on, right? So at this point, we could go what the Dark Souls sort of level design had, which is a lot of either fake light coming from the environment. So what I mean by this, if we have a look again into the scene, you'll notice that this scene is meant to be quite dark actually, but you've got all these candles everywhere that are lighting up the scene, right? So I would say anywhere in here, yeah, it's visible, but I think the intention was to make it quite, you know, like unlit. But then these candles are the ones building up the light around. So we could potentially do something like that as well, you know, ourselves, just to generate some interest in there with the candles. I mean, you can see it over here. There's clearly some interest generated from this particular candle. So let's see what else we can do if we add some more around.